White supremacy came because the white person felt that because I took you from there, I bought you from the Africans who sold you out. Now you are working for me. I am superior than you. You know, the white person knew that what he was doing was wrong. He knew, okay, it's not good to enslave a fellow human, not an African, a fellow human, but he had to develop something to override that thought, to override the consciousness.
If you think that colorism is just people like me, Chicanos, blowing things out of proportions, let me tell you a story about generational trauma, colorism, and the way that older generations treat brown people. So my dad's dad, my grandpa, he was a brown, like me, dark-skinned Latino man, right? Mexican. He married my grandma, who is also Mexican, but she is white, with orange, like ginger hair. She's a redhead. So they fall in love, they get married, they have a bunch of children. They have six kids, split down the middle. 3 are white, 3 are brown, right? They all get married, but one of the brown ones marries a white woman, so there's white kids, half white, half Hispanic. The other two have kids with white, like Latinos, so they're white Mexicans. And then the rest don't have children. My dad is the only brown person to marry another indigenous looking person. So there's 2 indigenous Mexicans, and they reproduced me, and my siblings were all brown. So me coming into the world, I obviously don't know what colorism is, but you know what I do notice? I notice that my grandpa, mi abuelito, treats my white-skinned cousins way better than my brown-skinned siblings. Down to the tone, he says, I'm not talking to you, I was talking to them. I'm talking to them, I'm hanging out with them, you shut up. Like there was something in us that he just inherently hated. He also treated my dad very poorly compared to his other white siblings. That man was a brown man. He definitely had some sort of self-hate towards him because he was a brown man, and he treated other brown children and brown people just as poorly, but treated his white passing children and grandchildren like they were angels sent from above, like they could do no wrong. So while to some of you these things might seem like jokes, or they're just normal in the community, or you don't understand Mexican humor, you don't understand Palm View humor, 956 humor, it's not humor, it's harmful. And you're just enabling more harmful rhetoric. Y'all want to act so tough and brave, like this shit doesn't matter and it shouldn't be hurtful. Shut up, just be better.
So my parents call me Prieto. Prieto means dark. Or negro. Negro obviously means black. And that's literally what they call me, right? My cousin will call me negrito. And I guess in Mexico, it's so desensitized. But again, in Mexico, slavery was abolished way before the US. So maybe that's why it's not a thing. I don't know. Now, with that being said, I'm the dark kind of Mexican, obviously, right? So I'm actual brown, not peachy brown. I'm brown. It's now becoming a thing. More recently, I started hearing about colorism. Like colorism, this is the first year that I hear about it. I've never heard about it in my life. Racism, obviously we grew up with that, right? Like we grew up knowing about it. I've always refused to be a victim or whatever. Nonetheless, I acknowledge that it's a real thing, right? It exists. So in Mexico, the racism and colorism stuff isn't as apparent, but I guess it's a thing. I've never experienced it, but then again, I don't go to Mexico too often. Yeah, here in the US, I don't think people can call or have those nicknames for other people, especially if their actual color is not the same color, right? So I don't think a white person calls things to people, which is kind of weird. That in Mexico it is allowed. So anyways, let me know what you guys think. Are Mexicans racist? I don't think so. It comes from a place of love when they say those things. At least that's what I think. But let me know what you guys think.
Now, in the previous video, I told you that I had an encounter between an African and a white person. An African who is also a Kenyan like me was not showing me respect, but was showing the white person respect. The black race, the black people, are the most endangered species. The black people are the least population in the whole world. We have black people outside Africa as well. We've had black people outside Africa for the longest time possible. People have argued in my comment section. People have argued, or even before my comment section, people have said, oh, we had black people go there with their boats. It was not even during slavery. They went before slavery. I don't know. What I'm certain, what I'm sure is that there was slavery. And black people were taken there during slavery. It might be that black people went to the Micronesian. Black people might have gone to New Zealand. They might have gone to Australia. They might have gone to Europe. They might have gone to North America and South America. But one thing I'm certain, we have black people who went there during slavery. And this slavery caused a thing that I told you in the previous video called white supremacy. He went to the Bible and he started looking at things. He found a verse that would satisfy his evil deeds. There is a verse that says, "Servants, obey your masters." Now because he took us from Africa and brought us there, he made himself the master and we became his servants. Yes, that is what happened. But there is something many people don't know. There is something many Africans, many black people don't know. Many Africans don't know this. Black people once colonized Spain, Europe, and some parts of Europe. Black people once enslaved as well white people. These black people were the people of northern Africa, and they were known as the Moors. They colonized Spain and some parts of Portugal. The south of Spain was becoming engulfed with black people and blackness. It took the Roman Catholic to come forward and wipe out the blackness by introducing Christianity. When they introduced Christianity, some corrupted mindset came and took that verse and said, "Servants, obey your masters." These servants who are now told to obey their masters were once the masters. It's so much twisted, so much twisted. I want us to watch this video. Black people are able to show their sad experience in Europe, not in Europe, but in Mexico. They're trying to explain that their experiences and how they're being treated. People who were once on top now are being on the bottom. It's sadistic, it's very, very sad. Now, without further ado, let us dive into this video, and then by the end of the video, I shall share with you my thoughts, where we shall also have a deep, critical analysis. Let's dive in.
My great-grandmother, who I love dearly, hated Native Americans. She denigrated them any chance she got. This was really confusing for me for many years, and that's because she was Native American. Like many other Latins, no one in the family ever spoke about being indigenous. We were only told about our European ancestry. So how does this happen? How does a person come to hate their own people and side with white supremacy? Internalized racism is the acceptance and internalization of negative stereotypes and racist beliefs about one's own racial or ethnic group. Internalized racism can lead to self-hatred and a desire to distance oneself from one's own culture and identity. When I finally learned about internalized racism, I was able to forgive my great-grandmother. For the first time, I was able to stop and think about what must have happened to her to make her feel this way. Recognizing and addressing internalized racism is an important step towards healing and promoting racial justice. Give me a follow to learn more about internalized racism.
There's literally nobody that hates the conversation about colorism like light-skinned girls and black men. And it says a lot about the internalized racism amongst black people. You guys literally don't think it's that deep, and it's so ignorant, and I'm gonna tell you why. A few years ago, I will never forget this because it literally marked me for life. These two dark-skinned girls came up to me. I think I was walking in the streets. I came from the shop. And they were like, "You're so pretty. You're light." Literally, when I heard them say that, I didn't take it as a compliment. Instead, I started to feel sad because I was like, ish, they're associating beauty to light skin. Because if they had just said, "Oh, you're so beautiful," then I would have said, "Oh, it's not that deep. Like, they just think I'm pretty." But because they mentioned the light skinness, then I was like, ish, okay, they can already tell that if you are light, you are pretty. They already have it in them that light-skinned girls are pretty. So as much as I'm not necessarily like light or a yellow bone, but to them, anyone that's a shade lighter than them is good looking. That was literally just one scenario, and I've experienced many more. But it said a lot about the backgrounds or homes that they come from, because if you have a father that dated your mother because he didn't want dark-skinned kids like him, and then it happens that the mom doesn't give birth to light-skinned girls, and it's so popular, guys, like it's so common that light skin doesn't dominate, dark skin dominates in the genes. Light skin is a recessive gene, So it can only dominate if the father also has light skin somewhere. But if the father is dark and his family is dark and the woman is the only one that is light, then it's not going to dominate. And that's literally what people don't understand. But anyway, so if your dad dated your mom because he wanted light-skinned kids, and then you come out dark-skinned like him, that internalized colorism that the father preferred a daughter or a child that is light-skinned is going to show, and the children are going to know it. You can try your best to hide it and act like, you're okay with your daughter being dark-skinned, like it's not that serious, but it's going to come out in many ways. For example, if they have cousins or family members that are constantly picking at their dark skin, you don't stand up for them. You just say, hi, and just brush it off. Like, you don't stand up against it and say, no, that is not right. My daughter is beautiful. Just because she's dark-skinned doesn't mean that she's ugly. When you have a mom that felt honored to be loved by black men because she was light-skinned, you're going to suffer, because when you are going through dark-skinned girl problems, she's not going to be able to help you. She's not going to be able to defend you because she doesn't know what it's like to be you, and she didn't care. So she's not all of a sudden going to have information or know how to help you because she never bothered. She always thought that she was superior and everybody else was jealous. So I watched an interview by Busisa some years ago, and she was saying how she was so shocked when she came into the industry that people were calling her ugly and saying that her complexion was dark and ugly. The shockery came from the fact that she spent her whole life being told by her family, her mom, her dad, her sisters or brothers, that she was the most beautiful girl in the world, and that's all she's ever known. So the minute she went into the world and the world said, you are ugly, she was like, oh hell no, that can't be true. Because I was brainwashed to think that I am pretty, so there's no way what you're saying is true. I fight colorism every day because that's what I want for my kids. Like, I want my kids to have a father that says, hey, when I tell those kids at school that they must stop lying because you look like your dad and your dad is handsome, so you are definitely beautiful, like they must stop lying to you. This dark skin, this nose, these eyes, you got them from me, and I am handsome, so there's literally no way you're ugly. If you're someone that loves yourself, loves your complexion, love people that look like you, it will literally show. Like, it will literally show, and your kids will know it. So yeah, guys, if it's not that deep and it's just a preference, then go ahead. But your children are gonna suffer in the long run.
Black and Indigenous erasure is rooted in mestizaje, or this idea of mixing races. In the US, you had segregation. In Latin America, you had mestizaje, this idea that we're one big happy family as long as we're all mixed, and none of us remember or practice our indigenous and black culture. The Mexican government doesn't even acknowledge different ethnicities in Mexico because they claim everyone is Mexican. We're all one big happy Mexican family. We're all treated the same. When in reality, black Mexicans, indigenous Mexicans living in Mexico are treated like trash. Their communities are severely underfunded and they face major discrimination. Being Latino is not a race, but it is an ethnicity. Ethnicity is just a culture you practice, and not all Latino cultures are the same. There are indigenous Latinos, black Latinos, Asian Latinos, Arab Latinos, Jewish Latinos, white Latinos. They're all under the Latino umbrella, but they are not treated the same. Mexicans who are not raised in indigenous culture should not be calling themselves indigenous, because a white Mexican from Monterrey did not have the same experience as an indigenous person living in Michoacan. And this idea that we're all the same erases black and indigenous culture, identity, experience. I'm gonna tag black Latino creators who speak way better on this than I can, but this idea that all Latinos are the same is rooted in black and indigenous erasure.
What is my race? I'm black. And though I don't need to elaborate on that, I kind of feel like you want me to, and for educational purposes, I will. I am also biracial or multiracial because one of my parents is black and one of my parents is white. But multiracial and biracial are both very broad categories, so they're not specific enough to be a racial group. Therefore, my race is black. I also recognize that as a light-skinned, multiracial black person who looks how I look, I experience anti-black racism, but I also experience benefits from colorism, featureism, and texturism. My ethnicity is also black. Contextually understood that means Black American. I am also ethnically Italian American and Greek American. Identifying as black or black and biracial is the most common racial identity pattern for people with my racial mixture. But there are plenty of other ways that multiracial people choose to identify that are not the same as I do. If you'd like more information on that, just let me know. I wrote my master's thesis on it. If you are also...
I'm just realizing how racist it is to like really grow up in a household that's full of mestizaje. So my mom is del norte de Mexico, my dad's del sur, and so my mom is a lighter skinned Mexican woman. And I guess for some people she can pass as white, but for the longest time growing up, I remember her always calling me India just because I would have my shoes off. And she would use that term all the time to describe somebody that was like inferior. She would also say that to my dad, who's like actually Zapotec. And I'm just realizing how internalized this racism really is in my family and how it really got us all messed up, like real messed up. Like even my dad, he never wanted us to be a part of this identity. This was something that he wanted to leave behind, to the point that he married somebody from a way lighter skin complexion.
So I was just cooking pollo de tinga and I got really sad because my Mexican grandma died a few years ago and I never got to learn her culture. I learned certain things and I'm grateful for that. However, racism is the reason why I didn't get to learn more, and the reason why my mom didn't learn Spanish, and the reason I didn't learn Spanish. So my grandma dealt with racism practically her whole life, and she would not admit to that because she was super prideful. But she didn't know English until maybe the 4th or 5th grade, and she got bullied for it. Because, you know, Spanish was her first language, and she wasn't familiar with it. However, she grew up in a very predominantly white area, and so did my mom and her siblings, and she never taught them Spanish because I think it was a defense mechanism. She was like, no, if they don't know Spanish, then it's okay, you know, they'll grow up white, and they won't have to deal with the struggles that I had to deal with. And that makes me very, very sad because not only did my mom get affected by that, I got affected by that. And now I was her caregiver for probably like 2 to 3 years. And I learned Spanish from her. She had Alzheimer's and she only spoke Spanish because she resorted back to practically her younger self and her understandings, and that was only Spanish. So I had to learn Spanish pretty quickly, and we would listen to Bad Bunny and she would just talk to me, and I really enjoyed those times, but it made me very sad because I missed out on a whole culture because of racism. Because people looked at her and said, you're not white, you're brown, and she felt like she needed to be white to fit in. And not only that, she had very white children, blonde, blue-eyed, and they said to her, oh, are you the nanny? Like, who says that? Like, it just disgusts me. However, that's what she had to deal with. So her whole life, she repressed her culture. But I wouldn't say that fully because we did have flan for my birthday, and we did have enchiladas all the time, and we had Mexican cooking. However, cooking traditional dishes like I am tonight, I really just am sad because I wish she was around, and I wish she would have taught me her culture because I truly love the culture. I know I'll raise my children in it, and I know that I'll be constantly cooking these traditional meals and having traditions in my family. But it just makes me sad because I wish that she could see me right now.
Now, from these videos, we can clearly tell that it's not only black people who are having problems with colorism, classism, and racism. We've seen an example of these Mexican ladies explaining and trying to show how much their very own despise their very own because they have brown color. Not black, brown. Brown that many whites, many black people or black children will call mzungu or white. We have other black Americans, by the way. Many of them are having that light skin. But you understand that some Africans might confuse them for white people. They call them mzungu. Mzungu is a Swahili word to mean a white person. Black Americans are called white because of light skin. Even children know that if you have a white skin, you have everything good associated to you. The black skin or blackness is connected with everything that is undesirable. You get it? Now, there is an idea of classism. There is racism, which is now a big problem. All these names or all these ideas are birthed from white supremacy. It's very deep. This topic of racism is, I don't think there's nobody who fully understands it. I don't think there is. When we see the Mexicans in their movies, we love how they look, but they don't love themselves. They want to be very close to white. Very close to white. That is what they want to look like. Yeah? It's a white supremacy that has been injected into their mind. You know, parents have grown up and they have been told, or rather they've learned, that having a black skin is not good. The sister was able to explain that her uncle did not love her. Her uncle loved the children who are white. Because the uncle was having a black skin, he didn't love himself. And sure, he is manifesting all this to the children who are very innocent. How he talks to the white children and how he talks to the brown children are different. The white children are better spoken to, but the brown, no. I wonder how this uncle will speak to black Africans. I just wonder. This is a very pure form of internalized racism. Very, very big problem. The colored community is also different from the mixed community. That is one thing people have to understand. A colored communities, maybe we have a black and African, like Barack Obama is a good example of a colored person. Yes. Father white, father black. Give Barack Obama. A mixed community or a mixed person is somebody whose ancestry is very mixed. You understand? Father was from Sweden, the other parent was from Africa, another parent was from Russia, another one was from Chinese. So they have a lot of mixing in their background. That is what we call a mixed community or a mixed person. We should not confuse mixed person for colored people. A mixed person might have a white skin. A mixed person might have a black skin. But a colored person is somewhere in between brown and black. Brown and white. That is the difference. But these colored themselves, they don't value themselves. Everyone is wanting to be white. Such a very, very big problem. I'm surprised that this problem is not only a problem that is affecting black people of Africa. I used to think it was a problem affecting Africans. No. I used to think it was a problem affecting the people from India. No. It's a problem affecting we, the community who is non-white. As long as you're non-white, you are going to experience this problem that is being explained here. So I'm going to end the video here. I hope that you find value in what I have said and in what I do in this channel. If you do, kindly give a subscription. It really helps me a lot bring you more videos. It helps me bring you these tools that I use to record this video to help spread awareness. This is EFK Original Documentaries. If you like my work, kindly subscribe, support me on Patreon. I will so much appreciate. See you in the next one. And remember, love your color, love yourself. Everything that God made was good. Just remember that. Nobody tell you otherwise. Everything that God made was good. Don't change yourself for someone else. Yeah. See you in the next one.